Hi everybody, it's Carrie of Creatively Carrie, and today on this live I wanted to talk again once again about our sketchbooks. And if some of you are sketching in your sketchbooks and you decide that you want to maybe add some value to your sketches, such as like shading, so you have a light and a dark and everything in between. I kind of wanted to go over a little bit today about how to go about doing that, okay? So I have my sketchbook, I have an extra piece of paper here, and I'm going to shift my camera down just a little bit so that I can show you guys what it is I'm doing, okay? So hopefully you can all see that. So here is my piece of paper. And I have written a number 2, a 3B, a 6B, and then an HB. So what does that mean? So what these means are these are the type of pencils that you can be using for shading. And so we're going to create a scale of values with our pencils today. But real quickly, I just want to show you what the difference is in each of these. So I have a number 2 pencil, and I'm just going to take this pencil and I'm going to use the flat side of it, and I'm just going to draw a line down. So this is what's considered a hard lead. Okay, so this is a hard pencil lead that's in there because it's not, you can't really smudge it very easy, and it's pretty permanent once you put it down on the paper. Okay. The next one I have is a 3B. So again, I'm going to just draw a line, and you can kind of tell that this one's a little darker, okay, and when you take your finger over it you can smudge it a little bit more for blending purposes, okay. Alright, and then I have my 6B, which is much softer, and you can smudge it and blend it. Okay, and then of course there's just the HB here, which is very close to a number 2, and I'll show you that one as well. Again, it's harder. It's a harder lead, so it does not blend, and you can't smudge it around and do as much with it as like you can the 6B, which also is a darker lead, and then the 3B. Okay, so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my value scale in these boxes right here. I know it's kind of hard to see. I put several boxes. I have 6 of them, and then I have a couple of shapes here that I'm going to show you how to implement your value scale in these shapes. Okay, so I'm going to use my 3B today, and I'm just going to start with my first box. Okay, and obviously the first box is going to be the lightest value you can get with this pencil. So you're just going to be using a very little bit of pressure here. You really don't want a whole lot. It's just really about barely coloring the paper. Okay, so again, I'm just going to be using this pencil very, very lightly to start the beginning of my value scale. Okay, so then the next square is going to be a little bit darker, right? So I'm going to apply a little bit more pressure here. And if you've ever taken some drawing classes, when they have you do this, they're going to have you also do some cross-hatching. That's a typical shading practice, and cross-hatching means I've taken my lines in one direction and then I'm going to go across those lines in another direction. So I'll just real lightly here, and then I'll do the same here. I'm going to go over this section this way. Okay. So again, my next value scale is going to be even darker this time. So I'm going to go a little bit more pressure. So typically your lightest highlight would be the white of your paper, and then you go to the next value and it gets a little bit darker and it's darker still. Okay, so I've got a few more here to do, so I'm going to do it again, taking my pencil. Again, this is my 3B, which is a softer lead. That really is designed for shading and creating darker values. Okay. This is about the pressure and about how close you're overlapping your pencil lines. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to do one more here. And this is going to be even harder. Pressure. Really trying to get my lines overlapped. Making sure I'm covering up as much of that paper as I can so you don't see any of the white. Okay. This is an infinite scale because you could spend hours just going incrementally in your shading. So let me show you what I have here. Okay, so I've gone from a very light, slowly transitioned to a very dark shading process. Okay, now I have my my rectangle shape here, so I'm going to start there. Now, when you have a shape like this, you need to decide, or your object that you're drawing, you need to decide where your light source is. So if the sun was coming from, say, the 12 o'clock position, your light source would be coming down this way. If that's the case, the top of your shape would be your lightest tone, and then one of these would be a mid-tone and one of these would be a dark tone, or maybe your darker tones would be really down on the bottom. Okay, so in this case, I think I'm going to have my light source be coming from the left-hand side, and if that's the case, then this is going to be my darkest tone right here. This will be my lightest. The lightest will be on top, and then this will be my mid-tone. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm just very lightly putting in a little bit of shading. I don't want to overdo it. I want it to stay on the light side. Now, say for instance, you went a little bit too far, and you say, oh, I'm not really crazy about that. You can lift some of your pencils, your pencil marks. So I'm just going to take an eraser here. I'm going to come back through, and I'm going to lightly lift some of that, because I think that edge got a little bit darker than I wanted. So I'm going to get this edge over here to be a little bit darker, because it's taking the light a longer time to get there. Okay, so the top of my rectangle has a very light shading to it, and once again the side here is going to be my mid-tone. So now I'm going to be a little bit darker here, putting a little bit more pressure there, making sure my lines are crossing over each other. My pencil marks are crossing over. and building on each other. Now if you wanted to get really detailed, you could do a gradients here, and this could be darker even still on this edge where the light wouldn't be hitting necessarily as much. Okay. Okay. So I have my lightest portion up here, and I have my mid-tone here, and then this side is going to be my darker tone, because the light really can't reach that side of it since it's coming from the left. So again, more pressure, overlapping my lines, and making sure that this is a darker tone. Now, you can also smudge these, your lines, so that you can kind of fill in and make it even softer if you wanted to. So you can blend with your finger or paper. If you take a piece of rolled up paper, you can also help with the blending tone, and you can get a couple of different feelings going on there. You can see my fingers covered in the lead. So, but that is... my rectangle now is shaded in with my 3 different shades, okay? Now, my cylinder here, the cylinder is a little bit different, right? Because it's going to have a round surface, not a flat surface like my square. So this is definitely where you're going to use a gradient to get darker to lighter, okay? Or lighter to darker, just depending on how you draw. So if my light source is coming from the left-hand side, this area is going to be my darker area. So I'm just going to really lay in a nice dark edge over here. And then as I come forward, I'm going to lessen the pressure so that it's going to get lighter and lighter as it comes around that curve. So that eventually, on this side, it's going to be almost non-existent, right? So I'm just going to very lightly put in a little bit of a shadow there. And once again, I'm just making sure that I'm doing my best to lightly overlap. And then I'm going to come towards this, and I'm going to get darker. So what you should see happening is more of a gradual transition in the shadowing, and that helps that object look curved. Okay? Flat surfaces like a box, it wouldn't do that as much because it's a flat surface, whereas a round surface or a curved surface is going to have that gradient on it. Okay? So I'm going to just fill this in a little bit here. And you can continue to slowly build your pencil up until you get it just a very nice, soft, gradual thing. And then, as I said earlier, if this is still a little bit this edge is too dark, you can take an eraser and you can lift some of that edge if you want it to be even lighter than what it is. Okay? We're not quite done. We have the top of the cylinder here. So matching the gradient that I'm doing here, okay, this is more of a flat surface at the top. So again, you could do curved lines up here if you want. You can make them flat. It's up to you. But I'm actually going to be doing a mid-tone here and then go to a light tone on the edge. got a little bit too dark in there, so I'm just going to lift some of that pencil. Okay, and this could probably even be a little darker over here, this edge, so that it matches this side where the light isn't hitting it. Yeah, so just to recap and kind of go over what we've been doing. We've been doing a value scale, right, with pencils. This is a soft lead. This is a 3B, so it's a softer lead than, say, a number 2 pencil or an HB pencil. HB pencils, leads tend to be harder, and so therefore they're harder to blend and harder to get to shade the way you want. You can still use them. They still will do the job. You just really have to press harder with them. And then, of course, I took my value scale and I applied it to an object such as the rectangle here and the cylinder here. Okay? So, when you guys are out with your sketchbooks, or if you do any kind of sketching, this is a great little tool to have in your sketchbook so that it can remind you about light sources and the values that need to happen when you're creating depth, right? Dimension. So something that looks 3D has a light side, has a mid-grade side, and has a dark side. And that's why they look 3D. All right, guys, that's it for me today in sketchbooks. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to turn you back up to see my face here real quick. There we go. Yay! Okay, so tune in again on Friday. I will be doing another live on Friday where I'm painting, I think I'm going to be painting a wooden little fence and maybe putting some flowers on it, or maybe doing a sunflower, a wooden sunflower. So that's just to give you guys an idea, something fun and crafty to do. And then also this Saturday via Zoom, if you buy a ticket, it's a $15 ticket, I will be showing you guys live on Zoom how to paint this painting right here. It's called Golden Paradise Beach. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, so I hope you guys are able to do that, and I will put a link in the comments on this post so you guys can easily click that link and get tickets if you want. So, okay guys, once again, thanks so much for joining me. I hope to see you again really soon. Have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. Bye.